Probably. A second though. 1v1. Let's see here. I'm gonna make classes right here. So I have to quickly make one. To dexterity, marksman, and I suppose I'll take scavenger, attack resist, quick draw, foregrip, stock. Why don't I just take this off and put it on like... I don't like that at all. I think honestly I'll stick long range hollow point. Honestly I think it'd be better to go rifled barrel, and I think I'll have a submachine gun also. Let's see here, overclock, payload charges faster. That'll be useful, you know. Is that a metal one? No, it's not. It's the first one. Let me see here. What have we got? NV4, probably not a good idea for a 1v1 at all. So we can erad glass. So foregrip, particle, situation. I suppose I'll sort of stick on. I'll put on scavenger and attack mask. Attack resist rather. Come with 2 primary weapons. As well stick on whiteout or zebra. Put on a sandwich. Put a cam on this also. This guy wants to play in 10 minutes. Oh no, not that. Sandwich. Games, free for all on Throwback. And there goes on. Now give me 2 seconds here. Let's see here. I'm just gonna start this game up and like literally run around and talk about strategy. The video of this title or the title of this video. Lovely jubbly. I got a preliminary overview of this map. I suppose auto assign with a K bar. I'll start off from a defender's perspective. Move forward a little bit here. Now, if talking about this map from a defender's perspective, right? You know where the A bomb site is, you know where the B bomb site is, right? He's right here. So what makes B the least planted at site? 2 neat reasons primarily. Namely, the proximity of the B site to the defender's base. It's so close to the defender's base that the defenders can deploy operators there in rapid fashion to an extent that it really isn't feasible that the attackers can get there before the defenders in any sort of reasonable manner. And so that's the first reason. Second reason is geography. You take a look at this side. Now obviously you've got little bits of cover here, you've got a bit of cover there. Suppose that's a bit of cover there, but typically you want to only take into account this open region. You've got a bit of cover there and a little bit of cover there. And so you take into account the geography of this side, where the B side is located. Because it's such an open region of the map, it's so difficult for the attackers to feasibly push it. Because there's two problems here. Namely, the defenders can pre-aim the side and take them out if they try to push it, or even peek it for that matter. But the second thing, and this is key, the defenders, you talk about positionally strategic multi-layered approaches. And so this would be an example of a sort of, this is like a fluff example. It's not the best example because of course you're giving up control of the site in some circumstances, although not always. There is like kind of like 3 layers to this, 4 layers if you think about it. And so what the defenders could do really is just peek it like this, right? Or watch the cross like this, so they don't have to peek it at all. And once they catch wind of any enemies trying to push it, then they can either back up. And so yeah, they've got now control of the B site. But typically you're going to rotate your guy from mid to barn so they don't get barn control. And then you just hold this back right here. And sure, they're going to have control of B, but then it's all about retaking the site. And so you can do that, or you can take them out if you feel confident. But remember, you always got to prioritize winning the game, so don't engage if you think at the end of it you're going to be putting your team at a disadvantage. And so really, you've got to take into account that, yeah, you can watch this cross, but they can also rush close here. And so you always got to be careful of that. 1 second. 1 second. My leg right there. Anyways, so that's really the sort of preliminary overview, right, of why this is such a hard site to plant at. Because, namely, the proximity of the bomb to the defender's base, but also the geography of the site. The geography is such an open region of the map, it's very difficult to see the attackers can feasibly push up the side of the map without one of two things happening. Either they get taken out, or intelligence is collected that indicates that they're pushing that side. And so really that's really of extreme importance. And so again, that's like a basic overview. It's much more complicated than that. I'll go over that at some point. And so you talk about, okay, from an attacker's perspective, what do they need control of in this situation? If they want to feasibly punt that B, let's forget about all this nonsense in the middle right here in terms of actually pushing up onto the site. If you want to plant B, what do you need control of, right? Talk about devising attacking strategies. And one of the key things you need to understand is what you need control of with regard to key buildings and locations in order to feasibly and safely plant a site. And with regards to B, there's 2 buildings you need control of, in my opinion. Number 1's barn. And the reason you need control of barn is very simple. If the defenders have control of barn, then the implication here is that they can simply peek out like this and take out any planters. And of course they can plant the other side, and it's not always so easy for the defenders in that situation. But, for the most part, you need control of barn. And then you also need control, again, you talk about key buildings and locations. You need control of this half rectangle right here. I'll call it the E, right? I'll call this the E. You need control of this entire region right here. Extending all the way back, all up to this corner right here. And all the way around here like that. And then obviously, this part right here. And then this general region right here, just. And then also up here. And the reason you need to control that is very simple. Again, you talk about it from a defender's perspective. They can watch the cross, they can collect intelligence, then they can then back up, and then hold from this position, for instance. And so because of that, if you try to push up in the site and plant, they're gonna peek out. So you're gonna need attackers to sort of push this out and act as front blockers and then get control of it. And so again, that's really talking about defending and attacking in a preliminary sense. You take a look at A. Take a look at A on the minimap, right? Let's go there. Let's go to A on the minimap, where it's going to be located. We're right down here. A is right here, right? You take a look where that is. You cut the map. You can see that's pretty much halfway, and so you talk about an implicit area of control. From an implicit area of control standpoint, it's not quite clear who has control over this. because it's pretty much directly halfway mid the map. But in terms of feasible implicit area of control, the attackers have control over A all day, every day. They just do. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Namely, the defenders cannot afford to get aggressive on A because they are leaving things to chance. And when you're a defender, you typically don't want to headbutt somebody at a site, or headbutt anybody at any part of the map for that matter. And so that's the first reason. The second reason is that the defenders also has to waste resources defending both A and B. So not only can they not feasibly push it, but they have to allocate resources to other parts of the map that even if they were to, the most they could do is like 2, feasibly. Whereas the attackers, they don't have to worry about their flank, they don't have to allocate resources to other parts of the map, they can forward push it. Maybe have like the fourth guy like push mid like this and watch it, and have people lay down smokes, throw nades, all the rest of it, right? And so forth. So, don't be ridiculous. That's where the attackers have a feasible implicit area of control over the A site. And so you talk about how do the defenders deal with that, right? And there's really a couple ways. You talk about asymmetric responses. Your asymmetric response is going to be like a lock and key, right? You ever learn about lock and keys in biology, right? You basically, for instance, you'll have, I mean, this is sort of like convoluted, I guess, but you'll have enzymes, and the enzymes will then react with, for instance, different types of protein. And the way that works is that the shape of the enzyme and the protein is such that they basically fit together perfectly. And so it's like a lock and key, right? You have a lock, and the key goes into the lock. And so you talk about asymmetric responses. Asymmetric responses are going to pretty much be the opposite of what the attackers are doing. So asymmetrically, we would say that the defenders, if the attackers are getting aggressive, the defenders are going to play non-aggressive. They're going to play slow. Typically, that's going to entail watching the cross and collecting intelligence with regards to understanding what the attackers are up to. And so that's your asymmetric response. Symmetrically, again, you talk about symmetric encryption, right? Symmetric encryption is going to entail encryption that's going to use the same key to both encrypt and decrypt. Right? That's just a real life example to really explain what that word means. And so symmetrically, we would say that the defenders are going to get aggressive, right, to combat what they're seeing the attackers do. And so the defenders, what they can do is, yeah, they can get aggressive. They can chuck a flash, chuck smokes, chuck grenades, and get aggressive mid-map, and then have to rush that streak. You know, because this map, typically on Search and Destroy, the map is such that you kind of have an attacker side, a defender side, and then a buffer in the middle, and that buffer will be worked throughout the round. But because of the way this map sort of plays out, both geographically and in terms of its size, it doesn't really have that kind of layout. It's much more of an attacker's side and a defender's side, and if both teams get aggressive, they're going to headbutt each other. 1 second. Aye, right there. And so I sort of describe it as like a fat woman with no neck, or like a fat person with no neck. That's what this map's like. There's just no buffer. The buffer doesn't exist. And so you talk about, from a defender's perspective, what's the best way to deal with it? I'd say on the early rounds, you're not going to want to get aggressive, although perhaps you will, especially if pre-game study indicates certain teams will follow along certain pathways with regards to playstyle. And so you talk about what do the attackers do? Well, in my opinion, there's no reason why the attackers shouldn't Hulk rush this site every single round until it stops working, because they have such good control. And one of the key things you want to do is have mid-map control, because the mid-map is such an open part, and there is no mid-cut, right? Typically on Call of Duty you'll have sort of 3 lanes, a 3-lane map design, and then you'll have mid-cut on the left side, mid-cut on the right side, a mid-cut that leads from the base of the defenders, and a mid-cut that leads from the and a mid-cut that leads from the base of the attackers. And so if you were to stand in the middle of the map, there's 4 directions from which you can be engaged. Of course, more nuance on this map because you've got top green on both sides. But on this map, take a look at the A side, there isn't really a clear-cut and well-defined mid-cut. It's a very open part of the map, and so you really need to exert control over the mid part of the map. in order to feasibly plant. And so you tend to sort of send somebody there with an AR, and then you can get aggressive. I would definitely recommend, I'm going to join this game, I would definitely recommend sending 2 to A at the very least. Having one exert control over my map with an AR, and then perhaps another mid or another A. It really depends. I like a double cross setup on the attack whereby somebody pushes that, not the far left, but the left side and then cuts inside the mid. And perhaps have one go top green, and then have 2 push A aggressively, and then as soon as you get that bomb down, you want to rotate back. You want to watch your flank and all that good stuff. I'm going to have to invite this guy. I was going to show you the little route I took though in order to get to the A side, but I couldn't because this guy's inviting me. And as I said, there's no reason why the attacker shouldn't really be pushing A aggressively every single time. It's just not a feasible situation in my opinion. What is going on right now? But that's like a preliminary view, and when I do this, it'll be much more. It's so much more complicated because you want to talk about the nuance of the different ways that you play this map. But that's like the base level preliminary view of this map for in the most simplified version. But it's not really comprehensive at all, and there's so much to talk about, even on this map, which you think is a very straightforward map. But the mid map on this is so important, yet so non-important, in the sense that it's an extremely important part of the map to exert control over and have control of, but it's kind of like a place where you don't want to push too much. You don't want to be out in the open. I'm hoping I can join this game very quickly. I'm getting this Bamberga situation, which is not really what we need. Yeah, let me in. I'm sure this isn't working, but unfortunately for us, really. I'm gonna restart my game right here. And going to a solo game in zombies. I might play zombies in space now.
For over 40 years, I directed the most terrifying, visceral, and bloody scenes ever committed to film. My contribution to horror is nothing short of genius. Before my retirement, People demanded to know my secret. How did I make it all look so real? If you really want to know how the sausage is made in a Willard Wyler picture, the recipe is simple.
Skip that. I was thinking I was going to sort of go into that and make sure that everything's lovely doubly. One of the tips I would give if you want to play zombies is you really want to turn up your sensitivity. Might do a custom game right here. Invite this guy to the game. Send the invitation. And voila. Probably won't work, but he's on the air like I just don't care. The specialists, unless you use like overdrive. Even that's like, come on. It's really not working right now. At all. Steven Seagal. This is not what we need. No, unable to join. Oh well, should be alright. Alright, on the stream. Have a nice life. That was actually a good little strategy talk right there. Actually, I'll wait 2 seconds. Just to see if I can perhaps join this guy's game. Fortunately not. I think he's trying to join my game and he's trying to join my game, I'm trying to join his game. There's all sorts of conflicts occurring. And it's a disaster. Anyways, whatever, it's fine. Spartan night, once again.